All right. How do you tell whether an equation defines y as a function of x algebraically? Well, the first thing you need to do is solve for y. So the first step, so solve for y. Okay. So solve for y first. But first, solve for y. So I'm going to solve this for y. Minus 2x minus 2x. Y equals 6 minus 2x. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and solve this next one for y too. I'll do some teaching here as I go because one of them, spoiler alert, one of them's a function, one of them's not. I'm going to subtract x squared, So y squared equals 1 minus x squared. Okay. And then how do you undo a squared? Square root. And we do the square root, we put a plus or minus in front. So y equals plus or minus 1 minus x squared. Okay. So now, one of these situations is nice and good and is a function, and one of them is not. Okay. So let me explain how you could tell algebraically whether an equation's a function. If you have two separate equations for y within one, or two different expressions for y within one equation, it's not going to be a function. So what in the world do I mean by that? That right here is what I'm talking about. All right, let's look at what this means. This is plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. That's the same thing as 1 minus x squared, 1 minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. And negative times a negative 1 minus x squared, okay? So notice this creates two different expressions from here. And so if you solve for y and your y can branch out to two separate expressions, this is bad, okay, because you have two different expressions. So this is not a function, okay? Because you theoretically could have two different x's go to the same y, okay? Now over here, notice that y equals, it's just one expression here, just one expression. There's not multiple expressions. There's not more than one expression. This is good, okay, good. This is a function. Okay, solve for y. And so basically, I'll write a note here to help you out. If you have two separate expressions for y, this will not be a function. Okay, and so that's what we saw right there, because you had plus or minus. You had the plus the square root of 1 minus x squared minus negative times the square root of 1 minus x squared.